Welcome to the Unfiltered Path Podcast, where we explore life journey without the constraints of filters. In a world saturated with highlight reels, we dive deep into the true essence of individual experiences, offering listeners an uncensored glimpse into the triumphs, struggles, and transformative moments that define us. Our mission is to provide hope, inspire resilience, and remind you that every path, no matter how windy or rocky, can lead you to growth and enlightenment. Join us as we navigate through the uncharted territories of truth and to be moved, be inspired, and discover that you're not alone on this unfiltered journey of life. Hello, everyone. I am a co-host, Danielle Hirsch. I'm the owner of Aerial Jade. I am an aerialist. That's a fancy term for performing suspended in the air. I'm also an advanced aerial educator, so I teach other people to do it as well. And I am here with my co-host.
What is up, everybody? My name is Graham Duval. I'm the owner of Valued Productions. My company works to produce and implement video marketing strategies proven to make you more successful with your business, helping turn strangers into clients using content, social media, digital presence. Joined with my awesome co-host today.
Hey everyone, Trinity Baker. I'm a mindset coach and motivational speaker. I help take my clients from survival mode to thrival, loving the life that they live, all with the power of our mindsets. And we are here with a very special guest. Rob, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes. Good morning, everyone. My name is Rob Espitia, and I am the co-founder of Brand with Video, which is a agency that implements done-for-you marketing systems for clients. We've had the pleasure of working with local businesses, digital businesses, all the way up to big companies like Think Media and even Adobe, the software company. And we also are the co-founders of High Ticket Creative, which is a consulting company for video creators, helping them scale their business to multiple five figures, which is one of the ways that Graham and I got connected. So I'm honored to be here. Thank you guys for having me.
Awesome.
Oh,
Yeah.
super.
Super pumped you're here, man. I just want to tell our listeners, Rob and I have been connected. He's helped me a lot, teaching me pretty much everything that I know, and consider him part of our team and how we've been able to grow. And so it's super honored to have you here and kind of dive into the idea of this podcast is like we have our business faces that, it's very business and it's what we share with people, but there's always that kind of that layer that's a little bit below that, whether it's I know for myself, this podcast has given me an opportunity to kind of share a little bit more of my story of like where I've come from, getting sober and things like that. And so that's kind of why we're here. And I'd love to learn a little bit more about what got you into doing what you do, and whatnot.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, shout out to you, Graham, Trinity, Danielle. Thank you guys for having me. When I talk about my story, I find it to be a similar trend as a lot of entrepreneurs, which is most often than not, the thing that you're doing now is not the thing that you thought you were going to be doing or the thing that you wanted to be when you grow up. If that is you, then I'm so happy for you. That's an amazing thing. But in my career, I essentially started from a variety of different jobs. When I first started working at 15, 16 years old, I was working in auto shops, so like grease monkeys, and I'm actually a big car guy, and I was able to kind of start my working career that way. Working on cars, everything from, imports to Audis, and that's kind of how I have the love for Audis that I have now and the vehicles that me, my brother, some of our students drive as well. And from there, I essentially went from having zero entrepreneurship skills. I was pretty much a full technician, just working on vehicles in the garage, barely talking to people, to being introduced to this concept of, having your own business, running your own life. And sometimes the very first kind of business opportunity we do is not the one that we end up staying at. And the very first business opportunity that I was introduced to was selling real estate as a real estate agent. And so I was 20 years old. I had decided to quit my job, and with zero sales, zero marketing, zero business experience, I tried to sell one of the most expensive things that you could possibly sell at the age of 20 with a even more baby face than I have now. And so you can see that it was probably a little bit of an uphill battle. And so my first 6 months, it was actually very challenging. But then I got mentorship. I invested in myself, and the following 6 months was actually very ludicrous for me. I started selling between 500,000 to $1.2 million worth of real estate every single month, which would allow me to kind of just learn more about sales and marketing and business in general. And from there, though, I kind of became, trapped in the hamster wheel of what is working 7 days a week, not having any free time for anything else. And so that's when I decided to make the jump into content, creating content for businesses. Started a company with my brother Jay, who Graham knows as well.
Mhm.
And from there, that was around 2019. And then in 2020, the year that we decided to go full time, everybody knows the big thing that happened, and the vid.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's still being monitored
Yeah, right.
or blocked in podcast and media and content. And that was a big roadblock that ended up being a blessing for myself and for my brother, because if you could survive, that time period, then you could survive anything. And so we're actually very fortunate that that's how we started our career. And that's when we actually started doing things like virtual video production, which at the time wasn't a very popular concept. So we were doing this in 2020. So while nobody was able to leave their homes, nobody was able to, do any of these things, we were creating virtual studios for businesses all over the world, entrepreneurs who still needed to make content. We would be able to like help them make that content, produce content with them virtually, and essentially start a trend that ended up being very ludicrous for us and our community. And so fast forward that all the way up to today, we still run our agency. We just recently finished a big project with Adobe, the company that, owns Lightroom and Photoshop and Premiere Pro and all that. As well as we've worked with other, bigger name brands like Think Media, as well as a bunch of, Instagram famous coaches, consultants, course creators, and other local businesses, car companies, and the such. And then the way that myself and Graham were actually introduced was back in, I would say 2021. I joined a community. Shout out to them. It was called the Real Deal Video
Yeah,
Strategist
yeah.
Club. And that what I mean, what a name, right? But and when we joined, I personally joined for community, because even though we were doing well, we were a multi six-figure company at the time already. Outside of like my brother and our team, we didn't have any other people or peers around us that we could communicate with and that they would know the same thing. So I originally joined for that purpose, and decided to kind of pour myself into the community, offer as much value as possible. And essentially within a year of kind of joining there, people were reaching out all the time. They were seeing our success. I was just giving out like everything that we had for free, my client call recordings, our KPIs, our SOPs, everything that we had just absolutely for free. I'm like, here you go, you can have it. I have nothing to sell you. And then essentially that generated a huge demand for our expertise. And I didn't think that was going to be a situation where I was going to be in, but I was very blessed, very grateful. And in short, that kickstarted our consulting company. One of the awesome things about that, but yeah, entrepreneurs like numbers and stuff. That was our very first like six-figure launch in like 2 to 3 weeks. It was absolutely insane. Even in our agency, we still hadn't experienced something like that. And then from there on out, we kind of had the opportunity to work with over 3,000 different videographers worldwide over the last 2 to 3 years, and still growing the community strong. So that's a little bit
Heck
about me.
yeah.
I'm happy to, go wherever, whether it's with challenges or successes or trends or anything. But that's just a kind of a little bit of the backstory.
I love that. I think I think that is a huge topic that you're talking on, is like, especially in entrepreneurship, or even if some of our listeners are like in the 9 to 5 now and they've got this passion that they have and they're like looking to potentially make the side hustle or like shift into entrepreneur, like that, there's such a path that we don't even know what it is yet. Like they could be starting that and it could lead them somewhere completely else. I think that is something that, like you said, a lot of people relate to, for
Mhm.
sure. And I appreciate you sharing.
what I took from your story the most was, COVID is kind of a touchy subject, but you're like, if we could start, because I started my business then, New
Wow.
York in 2019. So your story is very similar to my own. And in fact, I think theirs as well. So, and I took my COVID money and joined a business group. So I already know I'm going to be successful because I just like knew to invest in myself.
Hmm.
But you said if you can survive that, you can survive anything. And I feel like that's where a lot of our quiet confidence comes from,
Mm.
right? Like we talk about the struggles of COVID, but what about all the wonderful things, But I think it's built a quiet confidence in all of us is that, wow, we did go through that and we started our businesses then.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Like we went risk versus, mundane, or I think everybody did though.
I think,
Yeah.
Everybody was pivoting and whatever that looked like for them.
yeah, I think that's the most important thing. I think that there was tons of pivots that all added up for everyone then. And like, I think it speaks volumes to the whole journey of life. Like you either use something or it uses you. So what did you decide? Right. So
Right.
like my journey, like that's when I realized I did not want to be a nurse in a hospital at all. No more. Like I was done wearing 3 masks on top of 6 shields on top of 14-hour shifts. Like I was done. And so you either use it or it uses you. And that's like the victim or the victor. Like you got to choose one. And we all chose to be the victor here and use it for our advantage. When we see a lot of people who did it, and it really is like that quality of life difference. Where are you now?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that also taps into like, I mean, we were just talking about the power of mindset and like your ability to recognize those like universal, and I'm going to quote Trinity on this one, those universal winks that are kind of like guiding you in a direction. It's like, okay, am I going to listen to that? Is that going to be something that I'm going to listen to and like go with, or am I going to completely go against the stream on this thing?
Yeah. Yeah.
That universal wink, I'm writing that down.
The universe winks at you all day, every day. You just have to be present enough and connected enough with your higher power, whatever it is, could be universe, God, whatever, to actually listen to it. Like it's so crazy. I think one of the most mind-blowing things that I realized at the beginning of my coaching career was how many universal winks there are in people's lives that they don't even recognize. And I'm just on a call like, okay, universal wink, universal wink, universal wink. And people are just like going, not even seeing it. And I'm like, holy crap. We live in a society that isn't even present enough to see that our divine guidance is telling you you're on the right path. How amazing does it feel to be confirmed that you're going on the right path, but you don't even notice the confirmation? Like you're not even noticing it. I love that. Thanks for quoting me. I love universal winks.
Yeah, like that's I wrote it down. I love that. Did spirituality play a role in your growth? Because we talk about it, but I don't know if that's what you like to credit.
Yeah, 100%. I appreciate you asking that question, Danielle. And this is conversations Graham and I have had at times as well, and especially this year, I've been a lot more forward and bold about my faith. And like you said, Trinity, there is divine guidance that is present for just about everybody to tap into, and I think everybody has their own journey. But having faith in something, I believe, is just absolutely necessary, right? Having faith in other people, like you can do that. Not very much suggested, right? Having faith in yourself, that's a little bit better, right? That helps. But even, we're all human, and so even that is very limited. And so having faith in something that's bigger than yourself, I think is bigger than all other things. This is not me pushing an agenda or anything, but me personally, I put my faith in Jesus Christ, and that has definitely played a huge role in my life, and I definitely credit and give the glory to that because and again, it depends on what people believe in. But there's this proverb that just keeps repeating over and over again, which is, God's favor will put you in places that your hustle never can. And
Yes,
it's just,
yeah. Yes.
yeah, and sometimes you just have to have that obedience to follow, and in the word of Trinity said, pay attention to those universal winks. In Christianity, we call that like the Holy Spirit speaking to us, right? Like that is our comforter and guiding us because that is the gift that we received. So 100%. I very much am a believer of that, and I credit all glory to that. 100%.
Yeah.
If
You know what
you,
I do? Oh, sorry.
sorry, if you listened to our episode last week, which is just an hour ago for us, we were just talking about this, which is like, we have to stop believing that in order for things to unfold the way they are destined to, and for us to make the impact that we're just destined to, that we have to grind, go, go, go. And so I love that quote that you just said, Rob. It is so much less about hustle, right? It's so much. You have to have a higher power belief because you're not in this alone. When you have a higher power belief, you truly know that you're not in this thing that we call alone. And that you're real ultimately, like, it's really not up to you. Like, we're just here living it. Like Danielle
Right.
likes to say all the time, in our avatar, we're like a soul in our avatar. We're just here living it. But are you really living it? That's my question.
Right.
Right?
One of my favorite things
Absolutely.
is even in quantum physics, everything's alive, everything's vibrating, even what we create. I found when I was a painter, I started my business as a painter. In that moment in time, it built such confidence in what I was doing, even the stuff nobody saw. So I was like, it's alive, it's living, it's speaking what I need it to say, right? But then it's the design that's just so flawless. So I was in like a couple car accidents that migrated me to leave Florida. Like dramatic things had to happen for me to leave my opportunities and come back to Maine, right? Tell me how a very important number in my life has my kid's birthday in chronicle order. So if I had never come back to Maine, I was pregnant with Ja within a year. So it had predicted my kids' birthdays. Like I could cry saying it. So there's a design. It's freeing saying you said it was limited to only love self, right? And to give your faith to something bigger, the design that we're all a part of. It's getting outside of that ego or control, but then honoring, like, it's flawless. Like, it's a flawless design. It's so beautiful from animals to oxygen. Like, it's just
Right.
flawless. And then when you, the winks, the moments, the magic, I mean, not to trigger though with that word, but what I mean is like that unexpected, and then it's that nod of the design. Like it's just beautiful.
Yeah.
And I like all, and I'm glad it was so obvious because I would appreciate it and I would tell the story. Like,
Oh yeah.
yeah,
No.
like it's inspiring. Like I'm not even joking. It's crazy.
Yeah. Because whatever your higher power is wants you to give, whether it's Jesus Christ, God, universe, like literally anything, like anything. I do not care what you believe in as long as you believe in something. Wants you to praise it because it wants to be recognized as your partner because it is this universal, like there is a journey that we are on that we can't see. Like if we could see the roadmap, it would be really cool, but we have to trust that it's there. We're not just aimlessly sitting here doing whatever it has. Like we have a big mission and a big purpose in life, every single one of us. There was a song we were listening to this morning. I can't even remember what it was, but my son looked at me and we are driving down the road and he's like, well, what is the purpose to life? And I'm like, we have a map. I was like, look, do you remember when I put my GPS on in our car, we're going somewhere and I need a map to get there. And my GPS tells me like, you'll be here in a couple of hours. Here's the turns you're going to take. We have one of those in our life, sweetie. We just can't see it. And the most important thing you can do is believe that it's there, and everything you do is like taking a step every single day on your journey of life. And that's the purpose. There are so many things within that we have no idea what will happen. And I think that if we lived in a society where every single one of us really tapped into that, we would be so much happier because the clients that I work with who are straight in survival mode when they come to me, they don't believe that they have a purpose. Like they truly don't see the purpose of why they're here. And so we have to develop that because then it gives you motivation to keep doing every day, regardless of the challenges.
Most definitely. I mean, I can relate to that. I mean, like I remember before, like 7 years ago, 7.5 at this point, like I had that same feeling. And like, Rob, you were talking about how, maybe it's starting believing in people and then believing kind of in yourself and then believing in God after that. Like that was the exact progression that I took too. Cause like at first it was like no purpose. But then I saw this group of people that's like, okay, maybe I can believe the fact that this group of people has something that I can like direction that I can go. And then that led me to the fact that there is some sort of purpose. And then I believed in myself that I could even like take those steps. Then it was like, okay, there's no way that I'm doing this. It's physically not possible that I'm the one doing this. And so then that led me to more of the connection with God and my higher power and stuff like that. And that has just evolved as well in over the years, you know. So I think that that whole design, like you were talking about, Danielle, is just so on point.
I think the more that you praise whatever your higher power is, it's like fuel to the journey that you're on, right? Like it's so crazy when you take the time. I was listening to a book the other day. It's called Grace Over Grind, and I've read it a few times. And it's really about what we're talking about: slowing down, trusting the journey. Although we all have huge missions and we all want everything to happen tomorrow in our business, that's not the journey that we're on, and we have to take the journey. And the book said that if you are not having meetings with your CEO of your life on a regular basis, you're going to consistently feel lost. Just like being an employee in a business. Like if you are working for someone and you have no idea what the mission of the company is, how lost do you feel? Like you're going to work and you're doing stuff, but you're like, why am I doing this? We should be having regular meetings, whether that's prayer, whether that's meditating, whether that's journaling, whatever that structured meeting is for you. Maybe you go to church. We need to be having regular meetings with our higher power, whatever that is, because then you don't feel lost. And when you feel lost, that's an immediate alarm to go have a meeting with your higher power, get some guidance.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and it goes to the mindset concept of things, because gratitude is like your tool, right? And it's not just your tool, it's pretty much what's recommended across board. Like everything, it's like go to gratitude and life is better. And it's a process getting there. You know, it is easier to love other people at first, right? I love that we talked about that, because I feel like that was like my journey as well. But I vividly remember a promise to God and myself, and that I'm still in mission for. There was a moment where there was a clear conversation, and I was doing really well in my 20s in Florida. My life was like literally and not kind of like low key a mess, you know? And I didn't have that conversation. I didn't have that mission. I was just doing and kind of going. Now there's just a very clear mission, and there was a moment where the promise was made, and you know, it's to teach as many people a coping skill that they otherwise wouldn't have known, because circus arts is still very exclusive.
Oh,
So
I love
hundreds of children. I do like all summer long. You guys watch me do it. I will sit there with my rig, and it's one kid at a time, and I will show them the art, and whether they use it now or later in life is the promise I made to God. And I will show everyone a coping skill. Like
I
that's
need to get a Lyra in my house. Danielle, please, in the next month, hold me accountable for doing that, because you are so right. Like me personally, I love the aerial arts. I know my kiddo would benefit from that. So please hold me accountable for that, because what you do is you really do teach people on a coping skill that will help them through one of the toughest times. I had made a post yesterday celebrating 5 months sober. We just talk about that for a second. Like,
heck yeah.
Never thought I would make it here. When I made that commitment back in July, I was like, I will try. So I'm like here now, like, whoa, okay, I'm not even trying anymore. I'm doing. But I had made a post that like literally finding the power, discovering the power of my mindset saved my life. And so I love that what Danielle does and teaches saved her life. And I love that what I teach and preach saved my life. And I have a feeling, and I know, Graham, I know your story, and I somewhat know your story now, Rob, like, in what ways did what you do now save your life?
Wow. Wow, that's a big question. What a question. And you know, I that's a phenomenal question. So honestly, in many ways, it's very cheesy to say when people get into things that, you know, like, oh, I love what I do, and like, you know, when you love what you do, you don't work a single day in your life. And as awesome as that is, okay, work is work, right? Like and we all know this. And ideally we operate in a niche, in a field, doing a job that we find fulfillment out of. But in many ways, really, the content agency and even just like consulting and working with so many people has definitely uh, saved my life slash just added so much fulfillment into my life. Everything from, seeing other people get amazing results, seeing the transformations in their lives. And this is actually like not to get too far off into it, but like a Christian belief that, whenever we have these gifts from God, when we actually act upon them and share and actually take action while we are within that, that in of itself is actually like a process that feeds into us. Like that is a process that feeds into us. This is why, like when people retire very, very early and they're no longer working or they no longer have a project to work on or like a passion that they're actually going after, secretly or even not so secretly, they're kind of dying inside, right? So in the process of us actually fulfilling, what we were meant to, do while we were here on this earth, it actually like rejuvenates us. It keeps us young. It keeps us healthy. It keeps us happy. So, yes, from different types of scenarios, are there places where like my business saved me 100%. But even just like not just saving me, it's continuing to add life into me, being able to do what I do. So I don't know if that answered your question
Yeah.
directly, Trinity. And then just to add something to a point that you ladies were talking about earlier, talking about everything from like quantum physics to science and how it's all related. An interesting fact that was recently just revealed to me was you guys know like Isaac Newton, right? The guy who
Yeah.
all this stuff, right? So like what a lot of people don't actually know is that Isaac Newton actually he was a believer, he was a Christian, and he actually wrote more pieces of and more literature around faith than he did around science. And like when people are actually studying his story, essentially like he wrote the laws that he did and created the things that he did, not to disprove God, but actually to prove that there was something higher. So like science, one of the forefathers of science originally created science in order to prove that there was a bigger power, not to disprove it, like many people try to
I
do.
love that.
Yeah, I found it very, very
That's
interesting.
that's
Uh,
so cool.
Yeah.
I know too that like lately there's been more talk of that, not just the Isaac Newton thing, but like science and the melding of science and faith, where like, okay, there's no way that some God isn't here like guiding us through this. You know what I
we
mean?
can't
Like,
ignore it anymore. So scientists
yeah,
are having to shift their
right.
brain back to faith, where a lot of them had chose more independent views of living. But the double split experiment, quantum physics, proved that everything down to a rock is energy and by design. And they were able to predict luck off of the flip of a coin, proving that there's a path, an alignment, and we're co-creator with another force. So essentially, we're waiting for science's ego to chill so we can get the truth because it's already been proven through science now. So now the conversation's universal. It's just we're going. So well, lucky for the rest of us humble folks, we can live in that awareness that the two have finally met. Like, and there's just no separation anymore between science
Hmm.
and there's just not.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're predicting luck, that means our perception of luck is wrong. It's not of random at all. That's the wink. That's God's
Hmm.
Holy Spirit. There's the alignments, the path. But we've cleaned out our bodies. We started businesses. We have children. Like it took so much more than it was a lot of steps to connect to God in a true way. And
Mm.
over the last year, I've definitely leaned more into Christianity as a kind of North Star, where it was interesting because that's where I had started. Well, not started in middle school. I went to a Kirk Franklin concert and I was just changed. I was like changed. I felt like the vibration of the earth's love coming through my feet. I don't even know how to explain it. Like that's where I figured out where rhythm was. I don't even think I knew what it was until I went to that concert. And I was just changed. But in adulthood, I really leaned into understanding everyone because I want to understand everyone. Like I don't want to limit myself. So I finally come at, 39 years old where I've kind of everyone talks about Jesus, so I'm just gonna go with that, right? Because it's everywhere. And that's the blessing of allowing myself to learn all these other things was because it only just guided me where I was to begin with, which is nice.
Yeah. And I think that having a higher power, belief, whatever it is so essential in the healing and growth that we are required to do here in life. Like we must have faith that everything that we go through every single day is here to grow us. And to be that pupil of life, like you have to know that there is someone teaching you. And that is your creator. That's your co-creator. That's your higher power. It's whatever it is, it's here. Every single thing that happens is no different than when you were in school and your teacher gave you an assignment. They're assignments of life. And when we start to see things like that, we then start to harness these opportunities and see things as growth and healing and opportunities to do the growth and the healing required to get where we're going. It's like driving down the road and going somewhere and you've got this GPS telling you, and then there's a roadblock. Imagine just turning around and going home instead of taking another road, right? Or learning how to move the tree out of the way or waiting for someone else to do it. Like we're constantly being given opportunities that I see so much people don't take, or they look at as like the victim mentality when every single one of us here in this virtual room has seen opportunities for what they are. And that's why we're here today. We didn't, we wouldn't be here today. Like our businesses would not be here. Like my business at least would not be here if I didn't take opportunities.
I think that speaks too to like what you were talking about earlier, Rob, where like it's the thing that is giving life to what we're doing, and we can find it in our passions and the fact that we've been able to do what we love, but there's that connection to something greater that in that process of doing that, it gives us life and meaning and drive and all these things that we can follow to get to where we're going, which we don't necessarily know where we're going, but we're going there. And so I completely agree.
The biggest mindset hack, right? Can't believe I said that word, but is realizing that you're not working for money, you're working to live, like you said. Like we're being fed life when we provide to our community and or ourselves or other people or whatever we're being called to do. I love that. Like, because maybe that's like the ultimate like false persona is like we've been thinking money when really work is life. That's nice.
Yeah, I think that when you change your mindset from building the business, making the revenue to using the business as a vehicle to make an impact, you then get rewarded monetary as well as other things. Like we could all talk about the rewards we get from our business, but like we have to shift that perspective and that focus from business, from like getting the client, making the sale, to making the impact wherever we can. And then you're always going to attract, like God wants you to be abundant. Like God wants every single one of us to be abundant. If he's given us gifts, he's given us a way to be abundant with them, abundant in our impact, abundant in our resources. So resources being, do you want to travel the world? Then he wants you to be abundantly free. Do you want to, go on vacation once a month? Then he's going to give you the revenue that supports that. If you have these visions and have these desires, like he's given you a gift, you just have to follow the divine the divine guidance on using the gifts and not being afraid, because this stuff can be scary. You're literally following guidance that's not written down. It's not clear. It's not always clear, right? It's not like someone's giving you. It's not like you're going to find a business plan in your mailbox from God. You just got to follow.
Sometimes it's like an event or something you don't want to go to. I remember one performance, I was just like, didn't want to do it. I had done already a bunch for this particular event. And then I had one of my favorite double performances and bonded with another aerialist that now I see as like a close, ally.
Yeah.
She's out in the world being an aerialist now and still leans on me. Anyways, and I just almost didn't do it. I remember going, oh, thank God I did that
Oh,
because I just learned so much from that performance and it was just awesome. And I almost just didn't do it.
Mm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
What about you, Rob? Do you have a story? And where are you? I don't even know. Like, what part of the world do you reside?
Yeah, right now I'm in Houston, Texas. I'm in Houston, Texas.
what time is it there right now?
It is 9:30,
Oh,
9:39.
all right, so you're only an hour behind us.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Central Time.
That's not bad. That's not
And
bad.
and could you
You're
repeat
warm.
that question again, Danielle? What was it that you were, what was the question?
Well, I want to know where you were.
I think there was one before that.
No,
But
but
maybe
I
I
like
was
rambled
mistaken.
and I'm not even sure I processed what I asked. I'm sorry.
That's all
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was just kind of like, do you have something similar in relation to what we were talking about with the guidance and whatnot?
Yeah, yeah, 100%. I mean, back to what Trinity was saying with the universal wings, and like you have to have faith, and like you have to have faith that every step you take is there. Like as much as I agree with 100%, there isn't like a business plan that just lands on your lap. It doesn't work that way. We still are provided with like a lot of guidance. We just have to look for it, right? Like, for example, and again, respectfully, like if I ever get too far, just tell me, guys. But like in the Bible, right? Like Hebrews 11:6. I just pulled this up for you guys. This is literature that is over 2,000 years old,
I
right?
love it.
And it literally says, "And without faith, it is impossible to please Him, Him being God." For he who comes to God must believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder of those who seek him.
Mm.
So, like, in an ever-giving universe where, God made and there's other scriptures to back that up, where like he made everything, like the only thing that we can actually give is thanksgiving and faith. Like that is the only reward that we can actually give. And in exchange, we get our dreams fulfilled, we get our lives impacted, we get to help other people. And so sometimes when people, don't have that faith or choose to not have that faith, it's like you're literally choosing to not tap into like the most powerful source that can help you with anything. And it's just like you can make it happen and you can do it. It's just gonna be hard. It's gonna be really hard. And then the longer I do this, the longer I'm in business, I just realized that like certain things just didn't have to be so hard. And
Hmm.
like I can't keep doing it. I can't keep going this way. You can't just keep adding and adding and adding. But like back to what you were saying, Danielle, like God wants us to like do things like in the very first book of the Bible, he literally says, "Be fruitful and multiply." Like he wants you to be fruitful. Like he wants you to take one talent and turn it into 10. He wants you to do things with the resources that you have. So I agree 100%, especially in Christianity. Like there's this is the saying, and I love, Jesus calls us to love everybody, but sometimes some of the people who ruin Christianity are also Christians, right? And like within that realm, there's people who believe that, like when you are poor, it's a good thing. Like to be meek is to be weak, right? Like and it's not the same thing, and then the more you read, the more you like look into those things, it'll help. So my personal journey, like yes, I'm inside of mentorships. Yes, I read books and I consume business content. But honestly, what has been the biggest like eye opener for me has honestly just been like reading my Bible. Like through the grace of God, I'm like 3 to 4 books away from reading it cover to cover. And it's just a journey of doing it one time and then doing it again and again and again. But it's really interesting of after having consumed so much other self-help content. And by the way, this is like the world still needs more like mindset coaches. The world needs more people to talk about that. So I definitely want to like stress that. But it's really interesting how many of these core concepts actually come from literature that is 2000, 3000, dates back to like further
Hmm.
back. And in the words of like Jim Rohn, one of the OGs of mindset and stuff, there's no new fundamentals, right? Like the business, like the laws of success have not changed. Yes, tactics change. Yes, strategies change, but the laws of success in themselves have not changed. And it's just really interesting how many of these like, prosperity coaches or like different people, they have their own methodologies, but it's like so similar to what has already been written, to what is already there.
It
And
is. It's so true. Oh man, I love what you just said, Rob. That was like, I think that God uses people, right? So he gives us gifts
yes,
to
he
use
does.
to
Yeah.
spread exactly what you're talking about, right? So God uses pastors to preach the word. He uses people like us to teach coping skills, to keep that foundation. He uses people like you and Graham as resources to help others get their messages out. And so we're all being used, right? Like we
Yeah.
souls here being used. We're all given gifts, and your only obligation is to figure out what your freaking gift is and use it. Like those two things are your only obligations, and he will always give you a way to use it. You don't need to figure it out. He
And
will.
the gift is in the insecurity.
Amen.
And the journey of finding faith is where, where the passion happens. I can't quote like you. God bless you for all of
Oh,
that. I'm
yeah.
gonna go ahead and just like say, well, I look at myself as the tree giving fruit.
Mhm.
The tree doesn't necessarily, I'm not rewarded by the orange. I
Mhm.
produce the orange.
Mm.
So that's like a new kind of frame mindset I've been pursuing my career. And then that way I feel like I won't take the wrong corner because I've been there, and the people that don't have faith or they're struggling with it or they don't understand all the whys or it doesn't make sense to them yet, it's usually because there's an emptiness inside. And once we realize the only way that can be filled is through faith, it's just so rewarding.
Mm-hmm.
So rewarding. I remember being empty and an aerialist, and the experiences were a lot of times empty. And now it's just different. It's just so
But
different.
that first step, I mean, I reference I do 12-step programs a lot, and like that first step is always, you admit that whatever it is and that you're powerless. Like nothing else, like, and they always say that the only one of those 12 steps that you need to do perfect is that first one, that you admit that you're powerless. And so like when you can let go and admit that you're powerless, like you said, Danielle, what is the next step after that? Well, you got to fill it with some sort of power. And that's where that connection to God comes in to fill that all up.
If you,
Trying to do everything myself and self manifest and just everything was self, self, self. It just looked empty. I felt
Oh my God, for real.
tired.
is that true? Oh yeah. Well, you take this 12 steps, right? So we talk about like that being another journey to finding your higher power. Like there have been so many people I've talked to who are sober and gone through the 12 steps, and that was their door to finding their higher power. And I think that it's
for
just
sure.
so beautiful to have so many of these things. And Danielle, just like you just said, like usually the way that we fulfill the gift is our insecurities. Like I'm a public speaker. I failed public speaking class 3 times and I had social anxiety. I couldn't even walk into a room without like sweating and feeling like I was going to throw up. And so now I'm like standing in front of people talking and just talking to anyone who will listen to me with no fear. Like I literally don't have that fear anymore. And so it's so cool to see that play out because 15 years ago, I would have been like, you are insane if you think I'm going to be
Drop out of high school to take care of like dying family members from cancer. And so I had only was a cheerleader till middle school. Yet I became the professional aerialist. Are you kidding me? Like, are you crazy? Like I was built with, like I wasn't set up to have that result. And, and here I am, that person. So the insecurity was, I was just designed to do like not necessarily go that path. Like I didn't have a split until I was 22.
I think that's how it is in every.
Like I make other aerialists. Isn't that just insane?
No, and that's how it is with everything though. Like if you weren't set up to be wealthy, like you can create that for yourself. If you weren't set up to have this higher power belief, like you can create that for yourself. Like God is always giving us ways to shift our generations and better our generations. And a lot of people don't even see that. I think that should be one of our main missions, is to be a generation shifter. Because imagine 20 generations from now, if we all focus on that, this world would be like total. I mean, that would just be, oh.
There's a matrix trying to convince us that we're hollow slabs of meat existing in a program of work. Like, we wake up every day and have to live against that mindset. So shout out to all of us for getting through that on a regular. That's what's insane. It's like, it's so yeah. I don't even know where I was going with that, but I'm not falling for that crap. It's everywhere. It's like, clearly there's a choice.
The choice in everything. And like I say 1,000 times a day, you have to choose different if you want different. And that's the bottom line. That's
Most definitely. Yeah. And, I hope our listeners can see that this podcast can hopefully be that catalyst to help with the direction of choice, and seeing some of the directions that the four of us have gone, and like where we see that connection to faith. And like, you may be listening right now and have it seem like such a far long shot to even like think, but if you just make that little bit of choice, leave a comment or like say that, put it out there into the world, like, you never know who's going to connect. And that is higher power, God working through all of us. And, we hope you find some inspiration through this podcast. Rob, it's been amazing having you here. I'm super, super grateful to have you on this morning. I mean, Rob has taught me pretty much everything that I know about going through a lot of stuff, and so I'm super, super grateful for that. And I'm grateful for you guys and grateful for our listeners, and gratitude is just that guiding light. And so, again, my name is Graham. I'm an owner of Valued Productions. You can find me on social media at Valued Productions, VALUD Productions. Same thing, valuedproductions.com. And I am joined with my co-host today.
Hey everyone, Trinity Baker. I'm a mindset coach and motivational speaker. You can find lots of inspiring content. Thank you to all of the information and education Graham's given me. I use the power of social media to spread light and all kinds of great information on how to harness the power of your mindset and change your life and do exactly what we're talking about here. So if you want to learn more, follow me on your favorite social media platform, The Trinity Baker, or my website, thetrinitybaker.com. Join here with my amazing co-host.
Hi everyone, my name is Danielle. I'm the owner of Ariel Jade. You can find me just about anywhere online. Sometimes it's Ariel Jade Art, depending on the handle. I do center my focus around being a parent and an athlete. So if you are looking for tools to juggle multiple forms of talents and responsibilities, then I am your girl. And we are here with our guest today.
Thank you guys. Thank you so much for having me. Shout out to you, Danielle. Shout out to you, Trinity, and you, Graham. My name is Rob J. Espitia, and you guys can find more about me on Facebook or Instagram at Rob J. Espitia or Rob Pierluisi Espitia. I share a lot of free content just about pretty much everything that we do. And, if there's anything I can do to help out, you can definitely reach out there. Thank you guys again so much for having me, and I hope that you guys have a blessed one.
Awesome. Thank you again, Rob, for joining us. And thank you to our listeners today. Make sure you go to the Unfiltered Path Podcast on Facebook, YouTube, subscribe, follow, all that good stuff. Leave your key takeaways in the comments. We'd love to interact with you. And we'll see you all next week on the Unfiltered Path Podcast.